Welcome to Great Shot. This is the Great Shot Podcast, a Crack Racquets and Tennis Channel Podcast Network production. My name is Alex Gruskin. It's the moment we've been waiting for all season long, the day we finally get to break down the 2022 NCAA tournament here on today's episode of The Deciding Point. Of course, our weekly breakdown of all of the action that happens across the Division I college tennis world. And look, it's postseason time. You listeners can know and expect what we're going to be doing here on today's show. We're going to break down the 2022 NCAA Women's Division I draw. Obviously, we had our live selection show last night. We were able to offer our instant reactions to all of the madness, all of the chaos that unfolded. Of course, if you missed that show, you can go hear it over on our Great Shot podcast feed. But of course, here on today's show, we've had some time to reflect on the selection committee's decision. We are now ready to break it all down, offer our predictions for weekend number 1 of the NCAA tournament. And if you're going to break down 16 regions of action, if you're going to talk about the shocking lineup decisions, if you're going to talk about which teams are feeling best, which teams are feeling like maybe they were screwed over by the selection committee, if you're going to try and predict the upsets and so much more, you better have some help to do it here on this show. Thankfully, I do each and every weekend. Joining me once again to break down the Division I women's draw is the man who joins us every week on our Tuesday episodes of The Deciding Point, a man you know best as your co-favorite writer on our website, crackedrackets.com, founder of the No Ad, No Problem blog, of course, our West Coast correspondent here for all things college tennis at Cracked Racquets, and co-host of this episode of The Deciding Point. It's our friend John J. Parsons. Jay, hey, great shot. The week is finally upon us. We had lineup surprises. We had shocking decisions, everything and more. What a day yesterday was. How are you feeling?
It's been chaotic. I feel like I haven't been this busy in a very long time, between work and just the chaos of yesterday and the questions and the DMs and the messages. And it's been super fun just to break all of it down. And we're here, right? This is what we build for the entire season. The tournament's upon us, postseason play. The draw is set. We can project the matchups. I mean, this is what we wait for. For me, it was like Christmas morning. I don't know if there's an equivalent, but for me, it was like Christmas morning.
Yeah, it's a fair assessment. And just to give listeners and viewers today joining us live on our YouTube stream, and thank you to all of you who are taking the time to join us. So appreciative that you stuck with us all season long. And now we get to have fun, obviously, for this postseason stretch of play. But just so everyone knows what Jay was balancing, I texted him early this morning and I was like, hey, you got 10, 15 minutes to hop on a call because I just want to lock in what tonight's outline is going to look like, how we're going to order everything. He goes, I can fit you in 1 to 1:15 Eastern time because I've got double header calls for my actual job throughout the rest of the afternoon, to which I said, don't worry, we can just handle this by text. But again, to show Jay's commitment to this show, the man has a real job, still willing to put in the work, put in the research needed to ensure that all of us feel informed, as we head towards the start of postseason play. So as always, thank you, Jay, for joining us here tonight. And yes, now the fun begins. And on today's show, as I mentioned, what we're going to be doing, starting with our refined reactions to the selection committee's decisions. Who were the winners? Who were the losers? We'll break it all down in our opening segment. Then we're going to get into the lineup shocks. And certainly there are not confirmed lineups yet, as each of them have yet to go through the challenge process. But there were some shockers. There were certainly some notable switches, some things that happened to catch Jay and Mai's attention, including perhaps a paradigm shifting lineup announcement from one team. We'll get into that on today's show. And then, of course, we'll get into the regions. Which host seeds are on upset alert? Of course, the top 16 seeds hosting this weekend's action. Are all of them going to advance to that super regional round of 16? We'll find out. We'll offer our predictions here on today's show. Who are the locks, the best of the rest, and so much more. It's going to be a jam-packed episode, folks. And of course, the reason we are able to have so much fun here and have been able to provide this coverage on The Deciding Point week in, week out. And again, what is it? Week 15, 16 of this show. The reason we've been able to do it is because of the support we get from our friends at both SwingVision and Tourna. And obviously, I say it every week. I mean it each time I do. Our friends at SwingVision on the forefront of all innovations happening in terms of artificial intelligence in tennis. I said this on the podcast with their CEO, Swapnil Sahai. If I am a coach, I'm getting the SwingVision app on my appliances for the 2022-2023 season. Simply put, you're not going to need your volunteer assistant to go through all of the footage, to break down all of the matches, because the SwingVision app, it'll do it for you through its artificial intelligence. It'll break down the unforced errors, break it down by category as well. You'll have access to more data than you can possibly imagine via an app on your phone. Again, you can download the SwingVision app today. Learn more about it by clicking on the link in the description to this podcast. Use our promo code CRACK20. When you do, inevitably sign up and you'll get a $20 discount, 14-day pro trial. Again, we wouldn't endorse it so full-throatedly if I wasn't so confident it was the future. A huge thank you to our friends at SwingVision. I'm telling you, folks, check it all out. Click on the link in the description to the of this show. Of course, a huge shout out to our longtime partners here at Cracked Racquets as well. At Tourna. Look, all of you have come across a player in your life, whether it be at the local level, college level, pro level, who's using Tourna grips on the rackets. Simply put, it's the best in the business. And guess what, folks? They've got more than grips. As you see on your screen, if you're watching live, the Big Hitter Silver 7 Tour, which has been rated by multiple sites as the top string in the industry. Tourna's got it all. And you can learn more about Tourna and join the Tourna team today by emailing sales@uniquesports.com. You mentioned we here at Cracked Racquets sent you, of course, will appreciate that, but they'll throw in discounted prices, throw in some free samples as well, treat you like family. Again, email sales@uniquesports.com, sales@uniquesports.com to join the Tourna family today. With that said, Jay, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start today's show. That's why it was essential I get you via some form of communication to lock it all in. Let's start again with our reflections from the selection committee. There were certainly a lot of different things to sift through. And in our live show prior to the NCAA draws released, we talked about that FIU Wisconsin bubble. Chris laid out the scenario for why FIU was the final team in over Wisconsin. That's where I want to start with our winners and losers, I think. And look, we're glass half full here at Cracked Racquets, but we're also realists here at Cracked Racquets. I think the loser we have to start with is Michigan and the Big Ten. I mean, first of all, only 3 teams in the NCAA tournament for the Big Ten: Ohio State, Michigan, Northwestern. That's it. Wisconsin, your last team out of the draw. Do I have an issue with that? I do, simply because I'm telling you all, and we broadcasted a lot of Wisconsin matches on our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel throughout the course of the year. I got to see them at the national indoors. Yes, they went 0-3, but they played USC 4-3. They played ODU 4-2. You know, they played Michigan 4-3 during the season, Northwestern 4-3 during the season. They were right there in so many different matches. Do they have a signature victory? Maybe not, but I mean, that one's tough. No top 10 seeds for the Big Ten. You know, Ohio State ultimately at number 10. Michigan sent to Texas. Did the committee not factor in Sunday's result, Jay? Like, obviously, I think Michigan's a massive, I feel it personally. And I know I'm speaking on behalf of the feelings of many of people in and around the Michigan women's tennis program. How the Big Ten champs can get sent to number 4 Texas when Georgia Tech, who just 14-10, does not have the resume that the Wolverines do. You're sending them to Auburn. I will never understand that decision, no matter how hard I look at it, Jay. I look at the Big Ten and I think they did not win the selection process.
You know, the one time I do not create the outline, we start with Michigan. But I mean, I think you have some valid points. Look, is Wisconsin good enough to be in this tournament? Absolutely. Can you really feel like they should be in there? They had great opportunities. They hosted indoors. They played ODU, a winnable match there. One of those matches, and they're in. So that's tough. And this is kind of the, similar story with the Big Ten, right? A lot of those teams, and, obviously last season it was by no fault of their own, but they tend to find themselves a little more siloed, a little bit on the outside looking in. And so it's tough to feel that bad. I'll be honest, I don't totally understand your concern or issue, I should say, with the Michigan thing. And the reason why is because there's a total through line of a lack of integrity in this draw, right? They don't prioritize seeding integrity beyond the top 16. We'll talk about this more throughout the show, but Oklahoma couldn't have gotten a tougher number 2 seed, right? And so when you look at it, Georgia Tech drives to Auburn. Michigan's going to be on a plane. Michigan could go anywhere. Michigan was probably the last team standing. Who's open? Texas. Is it unfortunate for Michigan? Absolutely. But there's also a whole host of other schools that kind of get screwed over by the travel matrix being priority number 1.
Well, that's where we don't disagree. I don't actually think it's a disagreement, and I'm happy you framed it that way because that is the underlying principle, and it's established with Michigan in the Big Ten. I think you saw it for pieces of the Pac-12 as well, where everyone got scattered. The travel matrix is first and foremost the priority for the NCAA committee beyond the top 16 seeds. As you said, they will tinker with the top 16 seeds for integrity. Now, they didn't on the women's side. The only example they really did it with was Middle Tennessee, and that's their one integrity change in the entire outlook. Although I know Chris sort of laid out the case on Twitter for why mathematically it made sense as well, but why make a single tinker if that? And I think the math case is that they didn't even tinker, is that Middle Tennessee ended up 16 overall. It was all about the travel matrix. And each year I think I fool myself into thinking maybe this is the year it's not going to be, but this wasn't the year.
Yeah.
Regardless of if it feels like Michigan was boxed out of that with that Sunday result. And again, from a competitive balance standpoint, you cannot argue to me that Georgia Tech is a more worthy seed at the number 13 seed, regardless of who that 13 seed is, than number 17 Michigan at the number 4 seed. But to your point, that's what this exposes, is it's travel matrix first and foremost. It's a non-revenue sport. We're trying to keep the costs down. You can understand that reasoning, but I hate it.
Yeah, I don't like it either. But you're right. I don't even think Georgia Tech will be a top 32 team. I think they're 33 or 34. So yeah, they're not deserving of the 2 seed on paper. But that travel matrix weighs out when you get beyond the top 16. And the NCAA is going to force these teams to pay their own way for the first 2 rounds. So they're going to try and minimize travel where needed. And it's unfortunate. It creates a lot of repetitive matchups that we see year after year, particularly for some of these more saturated areas of the country. And it creates some very lopsided regionals for sure.
No, Notre Dame's always going to Michigan or vice versa. Florida State, Florida, they're all staying in state as well. You're right. That travel matrix leads to repetitive matchups. And the flip side of this, the argument in favor would be, hey, you know what repetitive matchups spawn? Rivalries. That's the glass half full, I suppose, take. You could try to spin. It's not a horrible one. The other one, again, it is a non-revenue sport. Certainly the Michigans of the world, they've been like, please, we'll fly wherever you need us to fly. But there are many programs that do not have that luxury. And thus you can understand why that travel matrix is prioritized. I do want to say that because I want to make clear, obviously, as someone who went to the University of Michigan, I feel personally slighted. That said, I do understand and see the big picture, even if I don't love the reasoning. But with that said, let's move on to our next winner. Or let's move on to a winner. Glass half full. Duke. They get the number 3 seed over Texas. Jay, floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, this was a big win. It seems like it came down to common opponents that kind of tilted into Duke's favor, as well as I think they had slightly more top 50 wins. But I think the biggest reason that Duke is a winner is because whoever was in this number 3 seed, the draw is pretty wide open. They're going to face Georgia potentially, which is a team without their top singles player
who they beat at the national indoors,
who they already beat, and then NC State in the quarterfinals, who they also beat this year. So Duke absolutely came as a huge draw winner for me based on the projected seedings. Now those might not hold, but as of today.
By the way, I screwed that up. I thought you were talking about NC State. It was NC State who beat Georgia at the national indoors.
You're
right.
Yeah,
Duke, yeah. I don't.
Duke didn't make it.
Yeah, Duke has not played Georgia this year. But to your point, you're right. For a Duke team that, let's say Furman knocks off ODU, Duke's off Furman at the national indoors. They know that matchup, and as frisky as Furman is, Duke has been there before. B, to your point, if it is NC State, They've seen that matchup before. It's a conference rival. And again, I like the experience of this team. Beck, Chen, Drummy, Billiken, they've been through the ringer before. They made the quarterfinals last year. They're the number 3 seed. They're rewarded for their home stretch of the year. Yeah, this team's extraordinarily dangerous. And I wonder if you asked Jamie, do you want to be on the same side as North Carolina, or do you not want to play them till the final? What would his answer be?
Duke has played North Carolina close in these NCAAs, even last
Yeah.
year, right? I mean, Duke had a somewhat of a tough season. They played that North Carolina team very close. I feel like that's not the first time we've seen that. At the end of the day, he would probably say, hey, all roads could lead through North Carolina. You play them in the quarters, you play them in the finals, you got to beat them.
I do love the ACC Big 12 symmetry of 1 North Carolina, 2 Oklahoma, 3 Duke, 4 Texas. Like you get 1 on each side. Let's separate them all. Let's have some fun. But yeah, certainly Duke, again, a big winner, rewarded number 3 seed. Let's go. I mentioned Oklahoma. Let's go to another loser here. The Oklahomas in general. Sooners, obviously, as you referred to, they receive Arizona State as the number 2 seed in their region. Arizona State reached the Pac-12 conference finals and was playing as well as any team down the season's home stretch. Oklahoma State, second round match. You have to play perhaps the team with the most question marks around them in UCLA or a battle-tested Arkansas team. I don't think either of the Oklahomas is the most thrilled about their regions.
No, I mean, talk about a juxtaposition between Duke and Oklahoma in terms of their draws. I mean, Oklahoma couldn't get a tougher number 2 seed. Oklahoma couldn't have gotten a tougher top, 13 through 16 seed. And honestly, they probably couldn't have gotten a tougher 5 through 8 seed in Texas A&M. So look, it's tough sledding for Oklahoma. And it kind of reinforces some of these draw integrity questions, right? When you look at a Duke versus Oklahoma 2 versus 3 seed, there really shouldn't be much difference there, but they're tangibly different.
Stanford, A&M, Duke, North Carolina. That would be the path for Oklahoma if everything holds seed. Ooh, that would be spicy. Meanwhile, yeah, again, if you're Oklahoma State, you feel good about your lineup. You feel good about your depth, but Forbes, Bolton coming to town. Kimmy Hance has been exceptional. We'll talk about it in a second. Again, not an easy seed draw for an Oklahoma State team that really hasn't been tested together in this NCAA tournament stage together. And so it's still, even if there's some veteran pieces, it's still a relatively new group gelling. That UCLA team has been through some wars before. Let's go back to the winner side, and 2 winners we can do quickly. Princeton received the number 2 seed in Virginia. Georgia Tech received the number 2 seed in Auburn. I mean, we already talked about the Georgia Tech one, but Princeton getting a 2 seed after the January and February they had, Jay. This league.
I mean, they barely got into the tournament, right? I mean, yes, they won the Ivy, so record wouldn't have mattered, but they were 11-10, and they won the Ivy by I think one match. They were almost on the outside looking in here. So yeah, to get the 2 seed was pretty stunning, and just again reinforces this team is in the low 40s, right, and got a 2 seed. There's just a lot of deltas, but yeah, I mean, this it's a good opportunity for them to get a match, and I'm looking forward to that potential second round with Virginia.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and again, quickly, another winner, Florida, who received the top 16 seed, and FSU as their number 2 seed in the region. If you're a Florida Gator fan, I mean, you've beaten the Seminoles, twice already this season. And again, what's Florida's signature win on the year? I don't know if they definitively have one, and yet by beating the rest, they're still your number 16 seed. You got to be feeling good if you're Roland.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much problem with them being seeded 16. I think the downside is why, Michigan, Arizona State, UCLA, all of those teams we just talked about would much rather be going to Florida. And honestly, Florida should have to face those teams to get to the round of 16.
Your mouth, God's ears. All right, last loser, the Pac-12. I mean, UCLA, Arkansas, first round match. That's not easy. Arizona State, of all the places they could have gone, Oklahoma as the number 2 seed. That's brutal. Washington's a 3 seed at A&M. Again, only 2 top 16 seeds. No top 10 seeds as Cal's 11, Stanford 15. I thought it was both on the men's and women's side. Pac-12 had a rough selection show.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly on the women's side here. I mean, this is one of the drawbacks when you don't get teams into indoors, right? We
Yeah.
saw it in the Big Ten last year. We saw only one Pac-12 team in indoors in Cal this year. And Cal's had their up and down season. So it's not like they've maintained kind of a top five ranking throughout the season that other teams could feed off of. UCLA missed out on two opportunities to play Cal and Stanford. So this is what we get. I mean, those are all very dangerous teams on the road.
All right. With all of that said, those are our winners and losers. And of course, we'll get into the bracket and we will, of course, be offering predictions as we go through this show. But before we can get to predictions, what are the lineups we're going to see on court? Now, again, coaches still have the opportunity to challenge all of these lineups, but let's talk about the lineup shocks and the paradigm shift I alluded to in the intro of this show. We have not seen her play all season long, but Michaela Gordon only played in the top of the Stanford lineup. Excuse me. She has been a part of NCAA championship winning teams. Allegedly, according to the submitted lineups, after not playing all season, and she still had 1 year of eligibility left. And West Coast correspondent Jay, I'm going to leave the floor here open for you. The former All-American submitted at the number 5 spot in Stanford's lineup. Now, at the start of the season, you go back to our college contender series. I said with Michaela Gordon in the lineup, the additions of Valencia Shu, Alexandra Yepifanova, and of course, Connie Ma, with Michaela Gordon and Blake and Geller and all the pieces they brought back, I thought this team can make an NCAA final. Well, now, Gordon's back. Stanford's in their typical number 15 seed. This is just classic Cardinal.
Well,
not actually,
yeah.
But it's just like, of course they pull the Gordon card out of their hat.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, right? We've joked about this with all sorts of players. I think you guys joked about with Rinky, right, showing up, or Ethan Quinn unredshirting himself. Exactly. All these players. I thought we'd seen the loss of Michaela Gordon, right? Two things to clarify. You did mention, yes, she does have eligibility, and two, she is still a student there. She's a master's student there.
True.
So she's enrolled in the university, but she has not played a match all year. How quickly do you think this got protested?
I mean, does it get protested? She hasn't played a match. So yeah, it gets protested. There are 63 other coaches in the draw. One of them is going to say, fuck it. Sorry, Westhoff. I knew it as it was coming, but it's like, might as well submit the protest. But where are you going to protest her to be? Because do you really want Ma and Yepifanova moving down? Like, do you really want to offer that depth versus leave the unknown at the bottom and whatever happens, happens?
I almost wonder if you're protesting for is she eligible? Right? Yeah. There's probably some obscure rule, but look, it's Stanford.
But she was eligible. We know going into the year, she was eligible.
Right. But who knows what, these rules. But I mean, some lineup rule, who knows? But yeah, I mean, it definitely, I assume, is getting protested. You have to believe. I mean, we talked about Oklahoma's draw. Oh my God. It was already tough. Gordon in there.
I guess my question would be, what would the protest be? What would be the foundation of it? That she needs to play higher? Or is it just an eligibility protest?
I would say, I assume it's going to be tough to protest her. I mean, where do you protest her to be?
That's what I'm saying. So what's the protest?
I assume it would be on the grounds of is she even eligible to play? Right. I don't recall this happening. Yeah. Right. I don't know.
No, the only one I can think of, and it's not that he was ineligible, he was just injured, is Alex Richard in 2015, the Baylor year, where it was he didn't really play all year long, and Henrik was in, and then at the NCAAs, they're no, he's gonna play 4, and he was fine.
Yeah, I think he played 5.
Yeah, you're right. He did play 5 because JC played 6. Good damn, Alex. I'm Westhoff, cut that out. Screen go black, but go ahead.
Okay. So I don't know about the protest thing, but a few things to note as well on why people were asking, is this real? Right. A few things. One, Coach Furu doesn't come from the Ty Tucker school of lineup chicanery. She pretty much, you might question where the players are, but she doesn't really pull this sort of stuff. Two, they actually only traveled to Ojai with 6 players. So Anna Geller and Madarawe didn't actually travel to Ojai. And Anna Geller is off the roster now. She's off the lineup. She's not on the submitted lineup. So at best case scenario, are you throwing her on there to have a 7th player or an 8th player? But yeah, I mean, I think it's real. I will absolutely be there on, I won't be able to make Friday. I will be there on Saturday. I will have evidence of and if she's playing, how well she's playing. Look, this is a bombshell.
Yeah, it's again paradigm shift. If we get, I'm going to bring out the percentages here. 82% of Michaela Gordon's prime at the number 5 spot. Come on now, like All American, Michaela Gordon. Like let me go to war with her and what she's seen. And by the way, she has, let's say they knew this move was coming since Ojai. They've had 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Now, I'm not saying you can get back to number 1 singles player in 4 weeks, but you can get back to something in 4 weeks. And
they've got another week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even if they don't need her for this weekend, they would just be playing their Pac-12 winning lineup this weekend.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree with you. And again, why are we spending so long on this one? Michaela freaking Gordon is back. Like, holy crap. She
was at number 1 for the 2019 NCAA winning team.
I'm actually so excited that you said I'm going to get proof with my eyes, because like that's what we need. It's like, what do we need more than anything? Because I need to see it, and I trust your eyes.
Yeah. And how is she playing?
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, who knows how long she's been practicing? No idea.
Yeah, what if she's just been hitting all year? Like, and then it's a new ball game, and it was just Matthias Seymour, but less publicized, where it's like, no, I really don't need to play. Don't worry about it. Like,
she was just really focused on the master's degree. She just
Stanford Masters. You need to focus. And so again, that's the biggest one. 100%. Next order of business: Chen to 1, Fukuda to 2 for Pepperdine. Janice Chen started the year at 5. Then she moved to 4. Then she moved to 3. Played a bit at 2. Now she's up to the number 1 spot. And of course, Janice Chen was the NCAA semifinalist last year, and she's lost 4 matches for Pepperdine this season. I'll look up the stat. 2 matches. Thank you for
Indoors,
Pepperdine this season. Exactly. And so she's been lights out, and outside she is playing. I mean, again, Pepperdine's lineup is a dartboard pair. Pete, they throw the dart and they say, you're at, except for Shiori at 1. They're like, you're at 2, you're at 3, you're at 5, whatever. Chen up to 1. Fukuda up to 2. I believe I saw Zar at 3. That puts Pachkaleva 4, Brodus 5, and then Vicky Flores right now lined up at 6. The notable thing in doubles, they're back to Flores and Zar at that number 1 spot. Of course, that pushes Brodus down to the number 2 spot with Janice Chen. They've lost 1 match together this season in dual match play. And then, of course, number 3, I know who's listed, but we'll see what actually happens in match time. I mean, it's come full circle. Like, we thought at the beginning of the year, this might be the lineup. This is now the lineup.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, you could kind of see it coming, right? When they moved her to 2 for the conference tournament, it was like, okay, this could be coming. She hasn't played 1 all year. So it's fascinating. She's obviously playing great. It's tough calculus, right? Because she was such a lock down in the lower half of the lineup. If you recall, when we did MVPs, she was on my list. But look, if she's playing anywhere near her NCAA semifinalist form, she can compete with anyone. Fukuda at 2 is great. You move Zar and Pachkaleva. I mean, look, all these players are really solid. It's tough to really. This is another one. I wonder if it'll get protested. Right? She hasn't played there all year.
What's Lisa Zar's record at 3? Curious what you think this season. I'll tell you, she's played 2 matches.
I think she's 0-2.
She's 0-2 at the number 3 spot, which is hilarious because she's 14-3 at the number 2 spot.
Yeah.
That was what I was going to ask you. Fukuda on the year 12-6, Chen 19-2, 7-0 at 3, 3-0 at 2. She's won 13 consecutive matches. She was an NCAA semifinalist last year. I don't know if I protest, because the lower Chen is in the lineup, the more confident you are that she delivers a victory. Fine, throw her at 1. I don't care that Flores is at 6. I mean, again, Vicky Flores 6-6 overall on the year in the matches. Yeah, exactly. She's completed. And like Brodus at 5, Sure, like 16-5 overall. Again, it's Pachkaleva's the interesting one. 8-6 overall, 5-1 at the 3 spot, 2-1 at 4. Do you protest Broda should be 4, Pachkaleva should be 5? That's where I would focus my attention. I think Chen has earned the right to be at the number 1 spot. Not that Shiori has lost the right to be there. Shiori's been rocks again, 12-6 overall in the year. All of her matches at number 1. But sure, throw Janice in. I do think she's been the best player. Like eye test wise and result wise, obviously.
Yeah, no, I don't have an issue with her at 1. I mean, she's played phenomenal, and I think these lineups should, represent, the accumulation of the season, and she is certainly deserved to ascend to that top spot.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of ascending, Oklahoma moves their freshman Shanta up to the number 2 singles spot. Again, Guzman, the Corleys, Pisareva, Staker, they have 7 options. Obviously, Lane Sleeth still at the number 1 spot. You can lock Sleeth into number 1. She will be there. But 2 through 6, again, you could throw a dartboard, in my opinion. If you want to play Pisareva at whatever and move the Corleys to whomever. I mean, the freshmen for these Oklahoma Sooners have been that good. Your reaction to this decision?
Similar to Chen, right? In terms of Deshanta has been such a rock for them at 3. She's played so well throughout the season. And, I think Carmen Corley is, doesn't have a dominant record at 2, has sort of struggled down the home stretch here. So it makes sense. I don't love it from a matchup perspective if you fast forward to a potential quarterfinal, but that's very far in advance.
Quarterfinal, but round of 16. Like, what is it going to look like?
Well, the Texas A&M one stood out to me in particular because of Makarova at 2.
Yeah.
So that was like, oh, that's interesting. But yes, we should not get that far ahead, just like the players and coaches are not getting that far ahead.
Yeah,
but
for once, they're actually, when they say we're not thinking around ahead, I can say I believe you. Like in this case, you're not lying to me. No, I mean, look, again, they've all been so excellent. And I would point, look, Ivana Corley has struggled outdoors. There's no denying that. I don't think she's won a match outdoors yet this season. That said, I feel good about all 7 of my options. I don't mean to exclude Lane Sleeth. It's just she is playing the number 1 spot. But regardless of who else is anywhere else, if you're Coach Cohen and the Sooners, you feel good about all the options because they've all proven it throughout the course of this season. And again, has Guzman played the most matches this year? No, but her track record speaks for itself. They've seen her in practice every day. If they're confident enough playing her, given the level of everyone else, I think we're going to trust their judgment on that one. But certainly Shanta moving up to 2 is notable. Some of the other ones, again, the big notable one I would say is an absence in a lineup, and that's Georgia's Leah Ma. And of course, Ma was at the number 1 single spot for the Bulldogs this season. You look at what she was able to do overall on the year. Ma 10-4 at the number 1 single spot. Obviously played number 2 for them last year as well. The junior, one of the experienced hands in the Georgia lineup, she's out. And we saw the impact for this team down the home stretch as they dropped the match at Alabama without her. And, yes, they advanced 4-2 over South Carolina, 4-3 over Tennessee to get to the SEC final. They got there by the skin of their teeth. And obviously, when you lose your number 1 singles player, all due respect to Grant and Narundorn, who have been excellent in a pinch, you can't replace Leah Ma. This is a massive loss for Georgia.
Yeah, this is huge. And she's not listed at all on the lineup, right? So she will not be playing in the NCAA team event. She didn't play at SECs. She did not travel there. So this is a really tough replacement for Georgia. Obviously, Riasco, Vidmanova at 1-2, still excellent players.
And I would point out Ma was not in the doubles lineup for most of the season anyways.
Right. Yeah. So it's not a loss for doubles, but I mean, look, if you're going to lose one player, you don't want it to be your number 1. And so this is a huge, huge blow to Georgia, who I think had high hopes for the end of the season.
Hope Jeff Wallace challenges that. He's like, just kidding. We have Leah. I don't know what happened. No, yeah, unfortunately for Georgia fans, no Leah Ma. That said, obviously the Bulldogs still have plenty of depth on the roster, and we'll talk about them more later. Some less, I would say, notable ones again. Cal makes the decision to put Rosenquist at the number 3 spot over Katja Wiersholm. Now, certainly Julia Rosenquist, I thought, has had a pretty good season for Cal overall. You look for Rosenquist 14-5 in dual match play. Katja Wiersholm 15-3. I mean, you look at the number 3 single spot, certainly Wiersholm 8-2, I believe, Rosenquist 1-0, or maybe I'm a bit off on those, but I think that's right there. Yeah, on paper, sure. Like that's one, if I'm a coach, that feels like an easy challenge.
100%. This felt like one where
It's a layup.
if it gets challenged, oh well.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, great.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's just a sneak in. Duke goes back at 1, Drummy at 2. I don't have, again, Beck had played one at the end of the season. It's
Yep.
been working for the Blue Devils. I don't think there's any argument there.
No, definitely not saying this is a challenge worthy, but interesting that they're solidifying the change they had made for the ACC tournament.
And then last but certainly not least, Miami of Florida, your number 9 seed, only 6 players, no code on, who was 10-4 at the 5 and 6 spots. She's out for the NCAA tournament. Again, that's just an injury that certainly when your depth is compromised, everyone feels that as this 3-week grind carries on. But with that said, it's time, Jay. We've set the scene. Who won? Who got screwed? What are the lineup changes we've seen? Now it's time to talk about each of the regions. And again, first round play, second round play happening Friday through Sunday this weekend on the men's and women's side. You have that first round, of course, 1 versus 4 seed in each region, 2 versus 3, the final playing that next day. We broke it down by category here. Again, we have our hosts on Upset Alert. We have the locks. We have the best of the rest as well. Let's start, of course, with what everyone is looking for. Who are the hosts on Upset Alert? Now, Jay, most fascinating to me, you have number 13 Auburn on Upset Alert. You think Georgia Tech, 14-10 overall, they're a team that's frisky. Make the case.
Yeah, look, I mean, these two teams played in February. Auburn beat them 5-2. Georgia Tech was without Kylie Bilchev, who plays at number 3. And a lot of those matches went deep into the third. This is a totally new Georgia Tech team than what we saw at the beginning of the season, where they were really, really struggling, right? They were on a losing streak. They've turned things around. They played Miami a very, very close 4-3 match at NCAA tournament. Auburn, I think, has struggled down the home stretch. I didn't think that was an impressive or at all a good loss to Tennessee in the SEC tournament. And I think Georgia Tech has the players and the depth to compete with Auburn.
So I'm happy. This is where we get to disagree. I think Auburn wins this match. I think they win it comfortably. What's the bad loss for Auburn this season? You want to say 4-3 at South Carolina? We were on the call for that 4-3 match. The fact that Auburn extended it as long as they did, and, Ackley got pushed to the third set, and they were able to force third sets all these different places. And again, they beat Sarah Hamner on that day and just found a way, after dropping doubles to scrap and stay alive in the match. I think 4-3 on the road is not that bad of a loss. I think their 4-2 match at Tennessee, you look at the singles matches, Auburn was, won, I believe, 2 of the 3 straight set decisions, maybe all of the straight set. I think it was 2 of the 3 straight set decisions. And look, 4 matches were in third sets. They lost the first 2 of those third set matches on the court. That happens, and certainly it's a loss. I don't think it's a bad loss, and I think this Auburn team has made it a point this season. They beat the teams that can't match their talent everywhere, because this Auburn team has depth everywhere, from obviously Ovunk at the top, who has struggled comparatively, 10-11 overall at the number 1 spot. But you look at the Yu Chens of the world, who's 15-4 at 6, and Ariana Arsenault 15-6 at 2, and Sari 16-4 at 3, and then Axon 12-5 at 5. You throw on all that together with the fact that this team's 41-19 in doubles. I agree. Georgia Tech has some good spots. I think Jane has been particularly good this year, and Jane's 16-6 overall in the year. Carol Lee 15-5 at the number 1 spot. Certainly, she has to beat Ovunk. And I mean, look, that Memphis match isn't going to be a cakewalk for Georgia Tech either. Lee has to have a big weekend. Jane has to have a big weekend. This team has been good, not great, but good in doubles. They have one exceptional team in Lee and Shirabura, as I'm sure you know, but I think you may have mentioned it earlier. But if you're going to challenge Auburn, you need to have multiple paths to 4 points. I don't know that this Georgia Tech team has enough paths to 4 points, and Auburn has made it again, other than the South Carolina match, which they still managed to make a marathon. If you don't have a clear, Tennessee has the depth. The Texas A&M loss early in the season. A&M obviously has the depth. I just don't think Georgia Tech does.
I think that's fair. I disagree. I think all of the stats and stuff are great about Auburn, but at the end of the day, the only match that matters is this match and this matchup. They do have the depth. I mean, Carol Lee did beat Ovonk at number 1. They did win doubles. They didn't have Bill Chev at 3, and they still were competitive at the bottom half of the lineup. So, look, this is as much of an on paper thing where I think there are pathways as it is as a gut feeling and a momentum thing. They've played at Auburn this season. They go back there. That's comfortable. I've been impressed with them down the home stretch. I was really impressed with them in that Miami match. And look, can't go all chalk. So yeah. This is one of my upsets.
Fair. I see my upsets elsewhere, and we'll get to them. The match I struggled the most in thinking, what will my prediction be moving forward? And again, the one I think I don't want to say most interested. Well, yeah, I'll say it. The match I'm most interested in is NC State's region. As NC State, and by the way, again, Auburn playing host to Georgia Tech, Memphis, and Jackson State. For me, it's number 6 NC State, who plays host to William and Mary first round. They're going to win that match. But their matchup against Tennessee is fascinating to me because Tennessee is just a matchup nightmare for anyone they play. Simply put, Tennessee has the depth to match the best of the best. And you look for this Tennessee team who, overall on the year 15-8. They only lost 2 matches this season when they won the doubles point. If they get that doubles point, you just look at the depth they have, whether it be, a Rebecca Martena or I just think between Martena and McGiffin, they usually go 1-1 at those 1-2 single spots. You look for Elza Tomase. The freshman's been exceptional, 13-7 at the number 3 spot. I think Adeshina is a wild card, certainly at 4. On the right day, she can be exceptional. Sometimes she's taken some bad losses, but you feel like it's a 1-1 split there. And then, Daria Kutzer, the senior's going 3 sets at the number 5 spot. And then number 6, Eleonora Molinaro, who has played in the top half of a lineup for Tennessee. She's now your number 6 option. This team hasn't been exceptional anywhere, but they've been solid everywhere. And NC State's just that on steroids. Like, with all due respect to this NC State team, who have been exceptional at doubles, of course. But again, Tennessee's been pretty good at doubles as well. It's one no-ad set. Yeah, you favor NC State, but anything can happen. Outside of that, again, Rochelle, 18-8. Negroho, 19-6. Abram, 19-6. Again, it's the Tennessee 1.25, but it's a really fun matchup.
Are you sure you're not on the NCAA committee? Because there are some inconsistencies in this logic that I would like to point out.
Please.
Auburn beats Georgia Tech 5-2.
Okay.
You're shocked. I pick the upset. NC State beats Tennessee 5-2. Same time of the year. And now you're picking potentially Tennessee.
So can I make the case? This Tennessee team's just more battle tested than Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has one senior on the roster, I believe, for them contributing to the team this year. I'm blanking on a name, and I apologize for that fact, but I believe it's only one senior contributor. And again, the nucleus of that Georgia Tech team that experienced all of that success, like, some of those pieces are still there, sure, but the Kenya Joneses of the world, the Vicky Floreses have moved on, and I'm blanking on a piece as well. But again, I think when I look at this Tennessee team, outside of Tomase, all of them have been, and for a bunch of them, whether it's McGiffin, and they just got seniors on the roster. Like, this is the last stand for this Tennessee team. There's a desperation there that I think this Georgia Tech group doesn't have yet, because so many of them are going to be back next season. This feels like this is the shot for Tennessee with this group to make a deep run, because they have the depth. And again, NC State's been excellent everywhere. I do think they ultimately win this match, but I wrestled with it for a long time because Tennessee has the depth. They're just a matchup nightmare.
Yeah, they won the nightmare in February. But this is a great match. I mean, it was 5-2. NC State lost 3 games in doubles.
Okay. Sure. Fair.
Right. And they win at 1, 3-3. They win at 3, 3-0. They sweep the top 3. But look, I mean, regardless, this is
this is just my fault for ridiculing your Georgia Tech. I shouldn't have ridiculed it. I should have just said I disagree.
There you go. But look, because I mean, this is going to be a great match. I'm looking forward to Tennessee, NC State. Tennessee can beat NC State for all the reasons that you mentioned. Just wanted to point that out.
Here's what I like. This Tennessee team beats Auburn at the conference tournament. They lose a 4-3 match to Georgia that they very well could have won. This Tennessee team is finally clicking. And that's the thing, is they go into this with a little bit of confidence. Does NC State feel as confident as they did in February, in March, as they do right now in May? Certainly they will be amped up to ready to go. Certainly they have already beaten this Tennessee team. I will apply this logic to Georgia Tech, why you made a good argument. It's really hard to beat a team twice in the same season. And so, again, I suppose, yes, I see your logic for Auburn. I suppose, I mean, I know you see my logic for NC State. The last host site I would put on upset alert, I think, has to be number 12, Oklahoma State. And that UCLA-Arkansas first round is one of the best first round matchups of the NCAA tournament, men's or women's. That said, UCLA is 12-6, and like, Forbes has been solid. She's come on really strong, particularly of late. And you look for this UCLA team. I have the stats in front of me. Abby Forbes, 10-2 at the number 1 spot. Kimmy Hance, 8-1 at the number 4 spot. Alicia Bolton, 7-4 at number 2. But we know when she plays her best power tennis, she can beat anyone. They're 34-10 in individual doubles sets as well. Now, the argument to make is, well, they didn't play Stanford in the regular season. When they played Stanford in the conference tournament, Stanford got them 4-1. Yeah, they beat Pepperdine and USC. They also lost to Pepperdine and USC. I have no idea what to think about this UCLA Bruins team. And like, again, if you have Forbes at your number, give me Forbes and Bolton, as we said at the start of the season, if they're playing their best, alongside any top 2 duo in the country. When you just have that presence at the top of your lineup with how well Hance is playing. I know, Vagramov 6-8, Ong 7-3, Katanza Wright 6-4. Like, nothing too stand out, but the path is there.
Path is absolutely there. I do think UCLA gets by Arkansas. I really struggled with UCLA Oklahoma State prediction. I mean, look, I went
because you can't do the Pepperdine thing, by the way, because UCLA also beat Pepperdine.
Yeah, I mean, you take history a lot more into account than I think I do in some of these predictions. Like, I'm very much like just looking at these matchups, right? And I went line by line on this, right? And I like UCLA at doubles. I like UCLA at Forbes, and I like UCLA at 4 with Hance. I like Oklahoma State at 2 and 3, 5 and 6. I don't really know.
Yeah.
I really struggled. I ultimately went with Oklahoma State, just given what we saw them do against Pepperdine, who on paper is a stronger team than UCLA. They beat them. That home court advantage, I lean OK State, but would not shock me at all if UCLA does the upset.
No, look, I ultimately went with the host site in each of these 3 regions. I didn't feel great about it, but I went with Auburn. I went with NC State. I went with Oklahoma State. I think in a match where the margins are thin, what are the 2 things I'm looking for? Who's better at doubles? Who's better at home? Or who's better at doubles and who's at home? In this instance, all 3 of these host teams, obviously at home. I think Auburn's better than Georgia Tech at doubles. I think NC State's the best doubles point when they play well in the country. And I had no idea what to make of Oklahoma State and UCLA, so I just said Oklahoma State's at home. And so I was like, give me the home team in that matter. Again, these are all really fun regions. Do all 3 of the, I think one of these 3 teams gets upset. I really do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it could be all of them. It doesn't
no,
sound like
it's never all of them. It's never all of them. Usually,
well, we're only looking at 3, right? I mean, who knows what happens in these other regions? These are the ones we wanted to focus in on. The other ones probably aren't as likely, but they could absolutely happen, right? 3 is probably the max, right?
Yeah.
3 host sites get upset. Feels a little chalkier this year to me, to be honest. But look, I mean, I'm calling Georgia Tech, Auburn. The other ones, I'm going with the host sites.
I have a different upset in my. I do have an upset in my.
I was going to say, if you're not calling one of these 3, then
no, I have a different upset in the queue that I'm going to call. But all right, let's go to the locks then. The teams we are most confident are going to advance to the NCAA Super Regional Round of 16. Number 3, Duke, who of course hosts Furman, Old Dominion. I think it's James Madison is their number 4 seed. That feels right. Certainly from that standpoint. I'll go look that up.
Quinnipiac.
Oh, it's Quinnipiac. Did you have the draw in front of you?
I have our notes in front of me.
Okay, even better. Thank you. You look for Duke again, your number 3 seed. Because you put it down further in the outline. See, I'm further up in the outline. That's the problem. Is I'm looking at the order.
You got to be quick on the cursor.
Yeah. No, I'm too active with my hands as I talk.
True.
All right, number 3 Duke, Quinnipiac, Old Dominion, Furman. Look again, Beck versus Startup Save if we get it. Just cut the clips. Let's watch that match. I don't need to watch anything else. Old Dominion's battle tested. They're good at doubles. Not going to be intimidated going on the road. This team has done that all season. I still just think this Duke team's clicking on all cylinders. The freshmen are getting more comfortable. They get to play at home as well this first weekend. Yeah, there'll be some nerves. I don't know if ODU can match the. Oh, that's the thing is like they've been, I forget if it's at 4, 5, or 6, but like they do have some options in the bottom of their lineup. And so I still think Duke's a lock. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. No, anything else to add? Furman versus Old Dominion. Who you got?
I have ODU. At some point, just the big match experience they've played in all season is going to pay off.
Precisely. All right. Number 4, Texas as a lock. Pains me to say. And their number 2 seed is Michigan. I don't have the other 3 and 4. Who are the 3 and 4?
Texas versus Ball State and Michigan versus Oregon.
Okay. Oregon, always tricky. They've had some nice wins this year. I suppose that's one of Wisconsin's signature wins, going back to it full circle. I mean, Texas, just the way they won the Big 12 championship. Stern, I mean, just the firepower they have. Again, Michigan prides itself on its depth, certainly, but Texas may have that in spades.
Well, I don't know about depth in spades this season. I think 5 and 6, Michigan would have to win those spots, and I think they could. Zamaripa
have been very good.
They've been very good, and I think Brown at 2 could be a win. Problem is they just are not getting the doubles point, and so
except for against Ohio State on Sunday, which you and the committee seem to have forgotten.
No, the committee remembered. They send you to Texas anyway. But yeah, I mean, look, I think Texas is a lock here. Although, look, I mean, I think this could be a good match. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Again, number 7, Texas A&M. I believe it's Baylor. Who's in their region?
Yeah, it's Corpus Christi playing Texas A&M, and then Washington and Baylor.
Okay, I'm gonna say the lock. You tell me who's in the region from now, and that's how we'll do it smoothly. Sorry, Westoff. Look, Baylor is experienced. They've got depth. A&M's just a better version of them.
Yeah, and Baylor has struggled.
And Washington, by the way, that's a good match. Although I know who's out. It
is Maud Fortin. The number 2, I believe, is out. She's been out for the last few matches. So Washington's not healthy. I do expect Baylor to get through that. But they've kind of struggled down the home stretch. I don't think A&M has any issue getting through this region.
By the way, we had a question early on, and I apologize if I didn't address it, from Ryan Lee, who said, what does the lineup actually mean? Do they have to follow this order in the NCAA? It's a great question, Ryan. Jay, go ahead.
Well, there's a few things. So you submit your lineup. You have 15 players. For the regional and the super regionals, and then the final site, you can name 9 who can play. They must play in the order that you submit. If the only thing you can do is pull a player. So for example, if you pull number 2, everyone moves up. Same thing where you see often the most changes at number 6. People will often pull number 6 and then put in their 7, 8, or 9. Doesn't matter. But yes, there is no flipping in any order during the NCAAs for singles. For doubles, they have the direct line substitution. So you can substitute in one player in one of the positions, and then you are able to reorder at that point in time based on strength of the new teams. But pretty much you see a direct line replacement, and they keep them as is.
Yeah, well said. I have nothing more to add. Hopefully, Ryan, that answers your question. Obviously, if you follow up, or if any others of you, have any questions, please feel free to submit them in the chat or tweet at us at JTweetsTennis at AL Gruskin. Yeah, I agree. Again, and for this A&M team, regardless of what's interesting is, do they go Townsend? Do they go McBride? What are they going to do at that number 6 spot? Because they were playing around at the end of that SEC tournament. And go ahead, Jay.
I was going to say, it's a great example. They have Morales at 6. If they wanted to play Townsend at 7, they could just pull Morales. Townsend moves up. She plays 6.
Yeah, I say McBride. I meant Morales. Thank you. All right, number 10, Ohio State. Who they got?
Ohio State versus Illinois State, and then Vanderbilt versus Xavier.
Yeah, look, Vanderbilt has come on very strong at the end of this season. I actually think they have the depth to match
Agreed.
Ohio State, but give me Contos, give me Boulay. That doubles point is a brawl. Again, because I see 2 wins for Ohio State, that's why I would lean towards them. That's why I have them as a lock.
Yeah, I think Vandy gets 6. I think Cortina has been super solid for them throughout the year. But I agree, Ohio State over Vandy.
Yeah. All right. Number 11, Cal. Who do they have?
So Cal versus Northern Arizona, and then Texas Tech versus LMU.
LMU Cal is an interesting one because this LMU
is.
team has certainly been frisky throughout the course of this season. That said, I do feel like there's a depth to Cal in singles, even if they continue to drop doubles points. I do just like the depth for Cal. I think that helps them win out in the end.
I agree. I'm more interested in the LMU Texas Tech match.
Yeah.
Because Texas Tech, look, they've been beat up all season, and LMU has, they've looked really strong. But this will be a really big test for them going against Texas Tech and then Cal.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, you have 2 where we dispute with one another. Let's start with number 14, Georgia. Obviously, we talked about Georgia being down Leah Ma. Who do they face this weekend?
So Georgia versus Charleston Southern, and then Wake Forest versus Northwestern.
So Wake Forest and Northwestern, obviously Northwestern, a team we know well here at Cracked Racquets, as we feature them quite frequently on our Cracked Racquets cross-court casts. Northwestern goes, they go Crowley, at the number 5 spot. They're going hand at number 6. No Justine Leong, the freshman, out of the singles lineup that they submitted. Here's the thing. The Viedmanova, give me Riasco and Viedmanova still at 1-2 over the Northwestern 1-2, and then I still think with Kowalski and Kopic in the center, I mean, those are just a couple of battles in the center of that lineup, but I just feel one of them do ultimately get the victory. Now, Northwestern's been exceptional at doubles, but I don't know if they're going to beat Wake Forest, who's been pretty good everywhere as well. And certainly Wake Forest, they have the number 2 doubles team in the country, something like that. And they've got depth everywhere as well. I just think Northwestern and Wake Forest beat each other up. And despite Georgia beating down Leah Ma, I still think they have the singles depth to match both of these teams who do not feature the most singles depth in the lineup. That's why I have Georgia as a lock. And they're at home.
Yeah, I mean, lock just feels a little aggressive for me. Obviously, they've been able to scrape by in the SEC tournament. Those are great wins for them. And look, the teams they beat there to get there are on the level of Wake Forest and Northwestern, maybe even stronger, right? I think the Wake Northwestern match is interesting. Wake beat them earlier in the season indoors 4-2. Give me Wake outdoors. And look, I think it's going to be scrappy. I think certainly at the bottom of the lineup, I think Wake can hang. But you're right. I mean, I think Georgia gets through. Lock, I don't know.
All right, fair. 15 Stanford.
15 Stanford opens against Southeast Missouri State. And then we have 2 number 2 seeds in this region, Kansas versus UCSB.
That's a juicy first round match.
Extremely. And look, UCSB will be very comfortable here. They upset Stanford on these courts earlier in the year. And Kansas is coming off of a good Big 12 showing. They knocked off Baylor there. I mean, how is Stanford a lock? They've lost to UCSB this year. It's just not locky for me.
That's fair. It's really just because they have Michaela Gordon now, and I know, but you're right. You're right. You're right.
I mean, if she walks out there and there's like a club player, it doesn't do them much good.
You bite your tongue. Don't you ever slander club. Grant, get him. Grant Chen, don't ever send Jay anything. All right.
I meant a recreational club player. I did not mean a club tennis. In my mind, it was like at the club, It's
an indictment, Jay. You're dead to me.
That was a misstep. I'm sorry.
No, it's really hard to beat Stanford twice. You're right. UCSB got them the first time and shocked them. I don't think they can get them again. That is really my argument there. But you're right. I shouldn't have put them in the lock category. I think 16 Florida, though, is absolutely a lock.
Yeah, 16 Florida opening up against...
that was actually the first lock I put down. I was like, I don't think FSU beats Florida.
Yeah, which probably tells you we maybe didn't get the draw correctly, right? If 16 seed is the number 1 lock.
Wait, you're telling me Michigan should have gone somewhere else? That sounds like an opening topic for a show.
Roll it back. Florida opens against South Alabama and then Florida State, FIU. I mean, you mentioned this. Florida's beaten Florida State twice this season. Florida State's 6 players on the roster. At home. this is spelling
Here's what I'll say.
Gator.
Yeah, Coach Hale, if you guys win, cut that clip, use it against me for the rest of my life. I do think the Gators, with the depth they've shown, this is just the sorts of teams they've beaten all season long. They get to do it at home as well. All right, those are our locks. Now you'll notice, perhaps inauspiciously absent on that list are the top 2 seeds, UNC and Oklahoma. And that's where I want to get to as we move towards the best of the rest of the regions, given their opponents. Are UNC and Oklahoma locks to advance? We talk about Arizona State, who, earned victories over USC, over Stanford down the season's home stretch. We look at a team like UNC, who's going to face the winner, certainly, of an interesting and frisky South Carolina and Iowa State teams. Iowa State playing with nothing to lose, and certainly South Carolina came on strong at the end of the year. You feel like, again, their top 2 can match the top 2 of anyone. And given Mora, Scotty, they've been good, but not exceptional here in 2022. Give me those 2 matchups all day long. Are they locks?
Well, we're vacillating on the definition of lock. For me, North Carolina is more of a lock than that Stanford region. Look, I mean, Iowa State, South Carolina is going to be a great match. South Carolina, you mentioned the top 2. Look, they can compete with anyone. This team, if they get doubles, they can get the top 3, basically. The problem is that where else are they going to find points? If they get through and face North Carolina, I mean, you're going to look at some very straightforward matches at the bottom of the lineup, which just, I mean, the path for South Carolina to win this is doubles and 3 of the top 4.
Yeah, which against North Carolina, good freaking
Very
luck.
tough.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they both advance. Like, again, this Oklahoma team has fought off adversity all season long. Like, yeah, they lost 1 match against Texas in the Big 12 finals. I still think it's another level than what Arizona State has seen all season long in the Pac-12. And yeah, I would have both of these teams as locks. I just thought it was way more fun to do it the other way.
No, it is. And I mean, Oklahoma, we talked about it. Arizona State, great match. Great team this season. The matchup isn't great with Oklahoma, though. I mean, Arizona State's been very volatile with a lot of their singles wins. You're going to get some like great matches, some not great matches. Just the consistency of this Oklahoma team. It's tough to see them dropping this at home to Arizona State.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I think they're both locks, but certainly not your father's top 2 regions here to start our first and second rounds of NCAA play. That said, let's move on to some of the other interesting regions we've yet to discuss. UVA, I guess we mentioned at the top, they host Princeton. And I mean, Princeton did not have a good start to their season, but we know with Freeman, with Schvetz, with everything they can bring in their lineup, that, yeah, they're not a team to be trifled with. At the same time, obviously, Army, Youngstown State in this region, we think it's going to come down to Princeton, Virginia. I think Virginia does advance. I don't know if I say lock.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say lock with the talent Princeton has, right?
On paper, it's a lot.
On paper, they can very easily split 2 and 3, which is, positions Virginia probably expects to win in the round of 32. And then Schvetz at 4. I mean, that's a very winnable match. Problem is Princeton has struggled a little bit at 5 and 6. Virginia looks to be coming on strong there. I think ultimately outdoors, give me Virginia. But I'm excited for this match. Excited to watch some of the Navarro-Freeman matchup as well.
Yeah, again, the depth of Virginia as well as they've played, right? Hibashake and Munera and all these different players down the Ziadato, but still, certainly Princeton on paper has the depth to match, and so that's going to be a fun one to watch. Number 8, Pepperdine, who always belong and never can be in the lock category, even though they can absolutely beat anyone. They play host to Denver, San Diego State, and of course the USC Trojans. I mean, this is just a hot and cold region because we know how good the Trojans can be. And again, Ewing, Cayetano, Hahn, and Naomi Chung back in the mix. You got a vet in Danielle Wilson. Grace Piper's now have a million matches under her belt. Who knows how this freaking match is going to go between those two? And obviously, San Diego State's been solid this year as well. Denver's that's just for a 4 seed. Denver's a tough 4 seed. I like this region.
Yeah, this is spicy. I would say, I mean, USC can't look past San Diego State, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, They've got the talent at the top. They have
And for the
Oklahoma
record,
State.
they've lost to LMU and UCSB this year. They will not be looking past San Diego State.
Correct. And because San Diego State has the talent at the top of the lineup, right? They've got Oklahoma State transfer, from Chihuahua, who's All-American. She's undefeated, I think, in dual matches this year. So they've got the power at the top of the lineup. So if they get through that, look, it's a rematch with Pepperdine. And it's going to be a good one.
No, I completely agree with you there. Now, last one on the list here, number 9, Miami, who, as we mentioned, has only 6 players here on the weekend. Now, Miami was sneaky excellent throughout the course of this season, very quietly, again, 17-5, and all of their losses came to those top ACC teams. They get a tough one, though. Another one of those hot and cold teams in UCF. Of course, UCF reached the round of 16 last year, got knocked off in their conference tournament as such. Certainly a shocking upset. I believe it was, to USF. Not one we saw coming, and we broke it down at the time. But there's a lot of pieces for this UCF team. And again, it's Miami, number 9, playing host to UCF, Alabama, and Stetson. How battle-tested is this Miami women's team entering, this portion of the year? I know they played, in an ACC schedule, but what's the signature win for Miami this year? They beat Duke. That's one. What's the second signature win for them?
Virginia.
Oh, they beat Virginia at home, didn't they?
6-1 over Virginia at home.
Yeah, but was that the same weekend? No, different weekend. So, all right, that's 2. I still think I'm going to pick UCF. I think this is my unexpected upset of the weekend.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough to know what to make of this UCF team right now after that loss in conference play. This Miami team I thought looked really good at the ACC tournament. Obviously, they're down a player. They only have 6. That's a very dangerous place to be. But I mean, I like them at, positions 2, 3, and maybe doubles on. It's also at home. But look, I mean, it's a good one. UCF is very much has been knocking on the door of top 16. They've also been looking like not a top 25 team. So you don't know. It really is going to depend on how well UCF plays.
Yeah, UCF 15-7 overall, and they lost at Miami 5-0 earlier in the season. I mean, again, for this UCF team, they've got to win over a Michigan. They've got to win over an Oklahoma State, a win over a Baylor as well. On the right day, this team can look very good. And again, looking at the matchups between these two teams, and I apologize, I'm looking down, but I'm reading the stats as I go. It's the depth for UCF, right? 13-4 at 4. 11-4 at 5, 14-6 at 6. They're also 33-21 in doubles. Now that's the big number because they're 33-21, Miami 36-19. Not that big of a disparity between those two. Again, 2.5 wins separating the two.
No, but I think level of competition is important to factor in there.
You're right, but what I'm saying is their depth has had success. Now, to your point, Audrey Bach-Collins, if she's at the 5 spot, which I believe I saw her in the lineup, that's a completely different test for UCF. That said, they have been that good at the bottom of the lineup, and if they can sneak out a doubles point, sneak out one of the top 3, now you don't need to sweep the bottom 3. Now you need to get 2 of the bottom 3, which you have gotten all season long. Now, you're right. Miami's another caliber, and Miami beat them 5-0 when they played early in the season. Give me the Knights, though. Again, give me Coach Kenyako cooking up some magic down there. I think that's my upset special of the weekend. But that said, that's all 16 regions, up and down. As we break it all down, of course, we talked about the top seeds, who we expect to advance. Let's move on now to our favorite first-round matches. And again, I think we both agree the barn burner match, first 2 matches, Iowa State, South Carolina, UCLA, Arkansas, are on a tier of their own. Talk to me. We sort of talk to me about Iowa State, South Carolina first.
Yeah, I mean, look, Iowa State missed the kickoff this weekend, and I feel like that still looms large for them. Of like, we really want to prove ourselves on the national stage, and they get a chance to do that against South Carolina. Look, they've had some historic milestones this season. I think South Carolina wins this, given the strength of their top of the lineup and just being in the SEC this year. But
Iowa State can match it. Like, they've got Naklo obviously up top as well, and she's played exceptional tennis and at the top of the lineup for Iowa State this season. Again, in Carolina, I do think that matters, like in North Carolina, but Carolina conditions not the same as Iowa conditions.
No.
I think as you look at the little things, those sorts of things matter.
Yep.
Top two battles are interesting to me. I think it comes down to Megan Davies again. I think Megan Davies is going to deliver the clinch. I just have this feeling.
Yeah, she's the inflection point on that South Carolina team.
100%.
Iowa State can absolutely win 4, 5, 6, particularly 5 and 6. So look, it'll come down to that middle of the lineup inflection point.
Yeah, and so that's a fascinating one. UCLA, Arkansas. I mean, look, Spink, Keller. I'm blanking on a name here as well, obviously, for who plays number 1 for Arkansas. I'm blanking here. It's not Spink. It's not Keller. It's
not Blankastara.
No, I can see her, though, and I'm going to be so angry with myself. But we'll get there in a second. Yeah. Oh, Tatum Rice at that number 1
I was going to say
spot.
Tatum Evans, but she's a U.S. junior.
Yeah, no, Tatum Rice. Good
Tatum
call
Rice.
for us. Good teamwork. Obviously, they've got depth. UCLA, we know what we're getting in Forbes. We know what we're getting in Bolton. We know what we're getting in Hance. We know what we're getting in doubles.
Yeah.
But we do not know what we're getting as a complete package because they've only played 18 matches this season. Arkansas's played a bunch of 4-3s. They went through the SEC schedule, earned valuable 4-3 road wins at South Carolina, at Ole Miss. It's a fun one. Who you got?
I have UCLA. I think those positions that you talked about are going to be too strong, particularly doubles 1. And it's 2 points on the board. Give me UCLA.
Yeah. All right. With that in mind, again, some of the other ones we've talked about: Furman, Old Dominion, Wake Forest, Northwestern, Texas Tech, LMU, Kansas, UCSB. Give me the Kansas top 2 alongside of any top 2 in the country. And again, UCSB, certainly frisky. I mean, again, they've beaten Stanford already this season. It's not a guarantee they're going to get to the Stanford match. That to me is the other reason I had Stanford as a lock, is like, if Kansas beats Stanford, I don't think Kansas can match Stanford's. If Kansas beats UCSB, I don't think they can match Stanford's depth. And like, I'm not 100% sure UCSB is going to beat Kansas. And so that's a fascinating one. And then I really like Baylor Washington, because this Washington team comes up clutch. Like they do. And this Baylor team's a little desperate as well, because it's an older group. And so those are some of the low key ones. But again, plenty of fun. 32 first round matches. Most fun potential second round matches. Let's do some power rankings here. USC Pepperdine's number 1, just because that's the all who the hell knows what's going to happen match.
Yeah, or what we have at number 2. I think those are a tier above, in my opinion.
NC State, Tennessee. Which one?
Yeah.
No. I'm asking you. Don't dodge the question here, Jay. Which are you taking?
I'm going to go NC State, Tennessee. I think Pepperdine handles business.
I guess I would like USC Pepperdine over NC State, Tennessee, because I know NC State, Tennessee is going to be good. USC Pepperdine, both teams could win 4-0. Both teams could win 4-3.
USC could not beat Pepperdine 4-0.
Oh, all right. Now you're guaranteeing it. Coach Swain, that's a challenge directly to you and the Trojans. Steve Weissman, block Jay on Twitter. All right. Oklahoma, Arizona State, by the way, is pretty damn good. It's just that Oklahoma's at a tier above. It's a very good match. It's tier 2. Oklahoma State versus UCLA or Arkansas is very fun. Virginia, Princeton, fun. Texas, Michigan, fun.
Yep.
Then I think it drops off a tier. And then it gets more fun just for us nerds. I mean, Texas, Michigan is an all side. By the way, you could have Texas, Michigan in both the men's and women's side. There's a world where Bruce Burke makes a return to Ann Arbor on the men's side. There's just a lot of fun narratives there. 2 big brand schools, Ronnie versus Howie, Battle of the E's. Yeah, I'm selling it to you here. Again, Big 12 doesn't have 12 teams. The Big 10 does have more than 12 teams. I'm just throwing things out there. Again, a lot of fun potential second round matches. Any last things you'd add there?
No, I mean, hopefully I think we're going to get most of these, which is exciting. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential really good ones. I think that's also the flip side of the no integrity is like you get these crazy regions.
All right. Well, then with that said, last but not least, let's get to our predictions. And sadly, we're both pretty chalk in terms of where our predictions come this year. We only have really a couple of disparities, and I'm sad you left it off the Graphic West stuff, but our 2 disparities, you're taking Miami at home. I'm going to take UCF. You're taking Georgia Tech. I'm going to take Auburn. Now, of course, we've circled NC State as another region with a potential upset, Oklahoma State as another region with a potential upset. Neither of us pulled the trigger there. On principle, I will take my Michigan Wolverines over Texas. That's just on principle. I would never, Ronnie, I would never pick against the Wolverines. And I got, I won't say who texted me, but someone on the Michigan team texted me and were angry about something that was on a Cracked Racquets Instagram post, something about Ohio State. And the blame was tossed onto me. And I was like, do you really think after all of this time I would ever disparage the Wolverines? I'm not saying I wouldn't compliment the Buckeyes, but disparage the Wolverines, never. And so I have to pick them here. And by the way, it says you're picking them. No, I'm picking them. John's picking. Yeah, no. It's all
not
the
on the
names are
record for
flipped.
that.
No, you're picking Texas. I'm picking Michigan. You're picking Georgia Tech. I'm picking Auburn.
Correct.
You're picking UCF. I'm picking Miami.
No, you're picking UCF. I'm picking Miami.
Thank you. You're picking Miami. I'm picking UCF. Ooh, there's just no way. Like, this just feels too chalk.
No, and that was the hard part, right? Is going
in a
through
year of the upsets.
Yes, yeah, a little bit, right? Like, there haven't been a ton of like top 10 seeds upset by 30. Like, there have been movement in the top 10. So we'll have to see. I'm going to be fascinated to see. I mean, this is the best part about the tournament is you get to see these interconference matchups. You get to see how these teams stack up against each other. It feels chalk right now going through it on paper. I doubt it will be, but how much craziness we'll see, we'll have to see after the weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And again, we are looking forward to coming back next week to break down all of the week 1 action. And hopefully we'll be able to bring back our Cracked Interviews press row and talk to all of our Sweet 16 coaches. Obviously, we'll have Jay back on next Tuesday to offer our analysis on everything that's happened. But with that in mind, that's your preview of the opening weekend of the 2022 NCAA Division I Women's College Tennis Tournament. Now, of course, we will be back tomorrow to do the same exercise for the men. Then we will be back Thursday for a little mailbag action. And tomorrow, the graphics going out, Jay. I promise we'll start soliciting questions. I don't know what we're going to do without your questions in the mailbag, because certainly they provided us plenty of fodder for discussion over the years. But
have a few alts.
Yeah, exactly. Again, our plan. Well, the problem is I'll be like, this is a Jay question. I now know you're all. But with that said, again, our plan to provide you all podcasts each and every day leading to the start of play. If you are a Great Shot podcast listener, you're hearing this on Wednesday. Tomorrow, you'll hear the men's preview. Then Friday, before the action begins, you can listen to the mailbag. You can submit those questions on Twitter at Cracked Racquets, at AL Gruskin, at Jay Tweets Tennis. We want to answer everything. And I do want to give a shout out to Chris Halioris. We'll give him the bigger shout out tomorrow, but a way you can engage, interact with this NCAA tournament, go participate in the bracket challenge he set up. We all love making picks. We all love feeling smart. We'll have some prizes set up for you. I'll make the formal announcement with Chris tomorrow. I'll also definitely do a victory lap myself. But here's what I want to say. This is why I love the professor. Now, you know what? I'll do it tomorrow. I was going to I don't want to do it twice. I'll do it tomorrow.
You do it tomorrow. I'll just do my plug for it. This is the best thing Chris has launched in years. This is super exciting. Please go and submit your brackets, your picks. I can't wait for it. It's really well done. It's super easy to do. Get those women's picks in. If you do a men's, why not a women's? So I'm really excited for this. Hats off to Chris.
Okay. Well, no.
You can
Alex, let someone else take a fucking compliment for once. I'm like, yeah, Chris deserves all of the credit in the world. We'll get into the origins of the idea tomorrow. I
don't play that game with you, so we don't need to play that game.
Here's what I did. I implored Chris. I was like, I'm not smart enough to do this, but you are smart enough to do this. Will you please make the bracket challenge? And all the credit in the world to Chris, who literally 3 days later texts me and Westoff and goes, hey, can you guys do a trial run? Like, I have it all set up. And you're just like, are you serious? Like, you did it in 3 days? And he's like, yeah, but there's some bugs. And like, he's the only one smart enough to do it. And so I agree with you. Go participate. It's so simple. It's literally click, pick, click, pick, click, pick. The tiebreak question, what's the clinching singles flight? I was pretty proud of that one as well.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, he defaulted. He goes, I have no idea. I was like, do we go match length? He's like, can you look that up? I was like, no, but clinching spot, we'll all know. So, and there's 6 possible permutations. So you feel like there is, if we have a tie there at the end, shout out to that math. With all of that said, Shout out to Chris Helios for setting up the bracket challenge. You can go sign up at collegetennisranks.com. Maybe we can get a link up on our website as well. That'll send that link to Chris's website. We'll worry about that tomorrow. Westoff, with that said, a shout out as always to our super producer, Daniel Westoff, on the ones and twos, who as always has a heck of an editing job to do. Shout out to our friends at SwingVision and Turna as well. Learn more about SwingVision by clicking on the link in the description to this app. Of course, you can use our promo code CRACK20 at sign up and learn more about Turna by contacting sales at uniquesports.com today. With that said, Jay, any final thoughts before we wrap today's show?
No.
Be honest, under an hour and a half. That feels a little light, right? You thought we were going over.
I was stunned. There was a moment I looked up and we were at only an hour and I was stunned.
Organization, Jay. This is what happens when I make the outlines. I feel invested in them. Versus yours, I'm like, I'm just kidding. No, as always, with all that said, for the fantastic John Parsons, our super producer, Daniel Westoff, our friends at SwingVision and Turner, and from all of us here at both Crack Rackets and the Tennis Channel Podcast Network, I'm your host, Alex Gruskin. Jay, what do we tell the people?
Hey, great shot.
And we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.